But where are the politics on this in Britain tonight? If there is action against Syria, of the kind you've heard described, should and could the UK be a part of it? Joining me now is the Conservative MP and Chair of the Defence Select Committee, Julian Lewis, and the Labour peer and former Lord Chancellor, who served under both Tony Blair and Jeremy Corbyn, Charlie Falconer. Very nice to see you both, gentlemen. Julian, let me start with you. A lot of people will think back to what we now think of as a pretty seminal moment of 2013. David Cameron went to Parliament to ask about strikes on Assad. Ed Miliband led a veto, if you like, against that. You were one of those who voted against it. Does that still seem like the right way to have voted, or was it a massive opportunity missed?
No, it was exactly the right thing to do, and that interview that you've just done is hugely revealing, because we're hearing now what is being proposed. What is being proposed is that we should intervene massively on the side of the opposition in Syria against Assad. And the truth is very different from the suggestion that there are a wide range of opposition groups. Apart from the Kurdish-led fighters, the opposition fighters in Syria are overwhelmingly led by jihadists. And both sides in this civil war are unacceptable to us. And what is now being proposed is the thin end of the wedge, so that we would intervene and tip the balance against Assad and in favour of the opposition.
Well, Reza Afshar, as you just heard, vehemently denied that there was that kind of split amongst the opposition groups. You're faced with a leader, a dictator, who, as far as we know, is repeatedly using chemical warfare on his own people. So what do you do?
Sorry, this is a crucial point, and I hasten to add, you've described me as chairman of the Defence Committee, but I'm speaking here for myself. There will be a range of views on the Defence Committee. But the reality is that if you look at the numbers of airstrikes that we carried out against ISIL-Daesh in Iraq and in Syria, the numbers run, for most of the time, about 8 in Iraq for every 1 in Syria. Why is that? Because airstrikes can only be effective when they're in support of ground troops. And the only ground troops in Syria that we could support were our Kurdish allies. And what's more, they are currently being attacked by Turkey, a fellow member of NATO that's busy cozying up to Russia. A very good idea for us to get involved in that? I don't think so.
Do you think the PM has your ear on this? Do you think she is with you on this? Or do you think she will go ahead and decide that action is needed?
I have no idea what she will do. I wait to see with interest, but what I'm concerned about is that you do not seem to accept that what we've got here in Syria is a choice between monsters on the one hand and maniacs on the other. And it is absolutely untrue to say that apart from the Kurdish-led forces, the Salafists and the jihadists are not in control of the opposition groups. They are, and we will be helping Al-Qaeda if we help them to do a sustained military campaign against the brutal Assad regime.
I mean, there's a desperate desire to do something, but there is no point in, for example, using military force if it is completely ineffective. That would be worse than doing nothing, because ultimately you would be sending a signal that you can't do anything about it. So I think there are 3 things that need to be done. First, you need to have some definitive investigation as to what happened, and although there's been disagreement in the Security Council,
you heard that Russia's vetoed that tonight.
But the Organisation for the Prevention of Chemical Weapons is, as I understand it, sending inspectors in any event, so there will be some independent investigation that takes place. I don't know what the form of it will be, I don't know the extent to which we'll get access, but it's important that there be some definitive view in relation to that.
So when you hear your old flatmate Tony Blair, for example, say that you don't need a parliamentary vote on this, sometimes you need to take the action at the time you need to take the action, is he wrong?
I think in these circumstances, to go very quickly without an authoritative view as to what happened, a sense that there is a strategy and international agreement about what should happen, and a convincing strike that would do something about it would be a mistake. So I do not think one should go straight away. I do not think it should be done without a parliamentary vote. I think in strict constitutional terms, the executive's got the power to wage war or use military force when the country is at threat, but I don't think that is this case, and that politically there needs to be a parliamentary debate before it happens.
We are 5 years past a moment when we talked about red lines. So what does that say about any impact the West has anymore, or should have? I mean, are both of you telling me tonight that that was the right decision and nothing would have changed in Syria if we had gone in?
And the key bit of this must be to get Russia to stop supporting Syria in what it is doing and identifying and tailoring things that will make Russia stop what it is doing is the key thing, and that requires.
You can't do that without taking Russia off the Security Council.
Well, you can get a group of countries, a widespread group of countries that will make Russia pay a price, not necessarily militarily, for what they are doing.
2013 was exactly the right thing to do. If we had done what is now being suggested, and which was what was being suggested then, which was to bring down Assad, it would have had exactly the same effect as bringing down other dictators.
Let
we
me
would
turn
have
it
had
down
a harder.
Should we be working harder to prop Assad up so that the war is over one way or another?
I would not like to involve ourselves in supporting either of these equally reprehensible sides in this civil war, because whereas in Iraq we now have a situation where we feel we can support the government forces, in Syria we have recommended bombing first one side and then the other and now the first side again. And the answer is we touch this at our peril. There is nothing going on that Assad is doing that Saddam Hussein didn't do 10 times over. 30 years ago, he killed not 50 people with gas, he killed 5,000 people.
You're opening a whole can of worms then, because obviously you voted for Iraq and we went into
But the
Iraq.
point I did, and I made a mistake. And the point about this is, if you want to say we should bring down Assad now, then you've got to justify what we did in Iraq, and you've got to be prepared to spend 15 years, as we did, turning Syria around.
Justifiable now?
Oh, well, there'd be no appetite anywhere here for going for 15 years into Syria. But we need to start building coalitions to make a real difference in relation to this, because I think the message of 2013 is that nothing happened after Parliament voted not to use force, which I think was the right decision at that stage, but then everybody went away.
Thank you both very much.